Welcome back. For those of you tuning in on audio, we are into Tier 3 of the NBA bubble teams. For those of you watching on YouTube, we are covering the Suns, Thunder, Pacers, Mavs, Magic, Nets, Pelicans, Blazers, Grizzlies, and Kings. To kind of describe Tier 3, these are teams that don't necessarily have a chance to likely make it out of the first round, but certainly don't have chances to win the conference finals or the finals. But a lot of interesting teams here, especially with the 8 seed race in the West. So we should probably start there. I think the 3 teams probably most likely to make it are the Pelicans, Blazers, and I think you could throw the Kings in there, right? As which we talked about on a previous episode. So, obviously, I think it's safe to say the NBA wants Zion in the first round of the playoffs, right? So, at the very least, in a play-in game.
Yeah, or the Blazers. It's got to be them and the Blazers, right?
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, and the Grizzlies, who hold the 8 seed currently. Sorry, John.
Right.
So, of those 4 teams, let's rank them. Mike, we'll start with you. Grizzlies, Pelicans, Kings, Blazers. Rank those 4 teams.
If I had to rank them, I'm not ranking them based on. I'm not saying that I think that they're going to finish in this order. I think that this team is going to make it. I'm ranking them, or who I think is the best teams.
Okay.
If I was ranking them as like the best teams, I think I would go Grizzlies, Blazers, Kings, Pelicans. I like the Grizzlies a lot. I really do. I think they are going to make it. I think they are going to hang on to that 8 spot. We've talked about that before, but I like Ja Morant a lot. Like, if you told me that if I had to pick Ja Morant or Zion Williamson for my team, I'm not saying maybe for the future, maybe I'd take Zion, but definitely for this season and these playoffs, I'm definitely taking Ja Morant, and I'm probably taking Brandon Clark over Zion as well. And when you look at like the whole team, like the Grizzlies have really put something together this year. I probably would have Blazers second, just because of Dame and CJ. Like Nurkic coming back, you don't know like what all that's going to bring. I would imagine it's going to be pretty good. I don't know, but from how they've played in the past, I would hope that they are clicking, and you'd think that they'd be pretty good. I just can't see them beating the Grizzlies twice in a row, and I think it's going to come down to that. I think they're going to have to beat them twice in a row. And the Kings, I don't know. I still am holding a lot of De'Aaron Fox stock. I know Todd is as well. I think that he is a serious playmaker, and I think a lot of times, it comes down to guards. And De'Aaron Fox, I would take him pretty high on the list, really quick. And the young guys that they have, I like the Kings team. I think the Kings have a real shot. Look at how they matched up in the regular season against some of these teams. It looks like they have a bit of an advantage. And the Pelicans, I just don't know. I just don't know. I'm still unsure how Brandon Ingram and Zion click. I don't think that they do click that well. Brandon Ingram certainly had a dip in production and certainly seemed a little bit more disinterested on the court when Zion was out there. Brandon, and he has a strong case for most improved player this year, but he just doesn't really play well with others all the time. And we saw this in LA, and
Zion.
We're seeing it now with Zion. I don't really think he knows how to play off the ball that well. He's really good with the ball in his hands, I think, and he can create a lot. He's a really good shooter as well, which means a lot. But when he gets disinterested, and he's playing off the ball, the shooting percentages go down. So I don't really trust the Pelicans as much as I did, and not to mention Zion's going to be on a probably big minute restriction, I would think, at least starting these first 8 games. I know tomorrow night he's likely to be on a big minute restriction, and maybe it'll loosen up after that, but we just don't know. It's a big question mark. So if you're telling me to rank them how I trust them, I probably put the Pelicans last.
So
I think if we did like best team, so if we just did like whatever, no record, like who do I think are the best teams in order? I think that the Blazers are probably the best team right now just because they replaced their front court with Collins and Nurkic, and the fact that if you can rely less on Hassan Whiteside in any sense, that's helping your team.
He's
So
terrible.
I think
He's definitely like a terrible
he-
player.
He's just terrible.
People think he's
yeah,
good.
so
People
less-
think that he's good.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I know. It's even 2K thinks he's good. I'm so confused. Anyways, so but then I would do Grizz, then the Pellies, then the Kings. So I think the Kings, I can't. They're last for me because what's his face, Bagley. Bagley's hurt. He's not coming back into the bubble. I think, they're young. They have the shooters. I love Bogdanovich and Heald and Fox. Like that's a great front court, but not this year. I can't see it. The Pelicans, I think I agree with what Mike said. I don't know necessarily how they fit with Zion. I think Zion is a big X factor. He can come in and dominate. But I think that the Pellies are kind of on that. They're in a weird place, and I just don't think like they're enough behind that I think the Blazers are better than them right now. I trust their backcourt more. I trust Dame and CJ to get it done over them. And the Grizz, though. So I think the Grizz will make that 8 seed. And I think it's like Mike said, just because I can't see necessarily, I really highly doubt that the Blazers or the Pelicans would be able to beat them twice to kind of get that 8 seed. And I think that Ja has been great. I love the shooting, the young playmakers on that team. I think they are complete. They're going to be a hard out. And I think that, the Grizz really have put together a great season. And I think, we like the sexiness of Zion or even Dame, but I think the Grizz have enough to prove that, they really are this team that's going to get the 8 seed.
So if I'm ranking them, I'm going to stick to my guns. I'm going to go with the Pelicans as the best team. Grizzlies second. I'd go Kings third, and I'd go Blazers last.
Really?
And the reason I have Blazers so far down is it's going to be tough. Not only I get Nurkic and Collins are finally back in the mix, but they have no chemistry, developed throughout this season at least with the rest of the team. And I don't love them defensively. I think they're pretty bad defensively at a lot of spots, especially in their backcourt.
Yeah.
So I don't love the Blazers, team structure. And I think if Nurkic and Collins had been healthy for at least a while before coming into this, bubble situation, then maybe. But I think they're going to have a lot of kinks that they have to work out, and they're going to be too Dame and CJ they're going to be too heavily relying on them. The Pelicans, I think outside of Zion and Brandon Ingram, they have some vets with playoff experience. A guy we haven't talked about yet, Drew Holiday, who's, you can make a case for one of the best two-way, guards in the league.
Yeah.
And who has playoff experience and, essentially he knocked the Blazers. He was a big part in knocking the Blazers out a few years ago because of how well he defended Damian Lillard. So that's a big factor here, especially when they're gonna be matching up against each other. Putting him on John Morant could be problems for John Morant. So
true.
And I like JJ Redick, another veteran with
Love JJ.
leadership, stuff like that. You make a solid point about Brandon Ingram. I think he has to find a way to still be Brandon Ingram prior to Zion in some facet, at least for most of the game. You know what I mean? It's hard for a young player to ever really learn that balance, I think, because you have goals and ambitions, right? So, you know what I mean? You want to be the go-to guy, but you have a super talented teammate. So you got to know when to put your foot on the gas and when to give him space and learn how to play without the basketball in your hands and be effective without it. So that's certainly something that they'll have to work out. But if I look at the depth of these two teams, I think the Pelicans have more offensively than the Grizzlies do. I think the Grizzlies have a better defensive team. I think they have better two-way players, or more two-way players than the Pelicans have. But I think the Pelicans have, more guys other than John Morant that they can rely on to get buckets. Zion, they can go to Zion. They still can go to Brandon Ingram. They can go to Drew Holiday. They can run sets for JJ Redick. You know what I mean? Like they have 4 legitimate scoring options, whereas like the Grizzlies seem a little bit like John Morant reliant on creation. So I give them the slight edge there, but I wouldn't be surprised at all, if the Grizzlies, were to win the 8th seed. And then to piggyback on the De'Aaron Fox discussion, I love De'Aaron Fox. I think he has, sky high potential. He's lightning quick. Honestly, I've loved him since what I saw him do to Lonzo at Kentucky.
Yeah, right.
And so like he's got a killer in him. You know what I mean? He's got that pit bull mentality, but his speed and athleticism and his game, you know what I mean, is continuing to evolve, where he's not just relying on his athleticism. Like he really can break down defenses and make, the right next pass, and his mid-range game is getting better. His 3-point shot's only going to get better as well. So certainly like De'Aaron Fox, but I don't, like you said, Bagley not being there is huge. I think that's going to hurt them a lot. I don't like Harrison Barnes, especially in playoff situations. The last time he was in a playoff situation, it did not go well.
True.
But I like Buddy Hield. I think Buddy Hield is above average. So, he's a player. Yeah, I like Buddy Hield, but I don't think those two are quite enough to get them over.
And the other Bogdanovich is playing, right? He's solid.
He's very solid.
Yeah, they got shooting. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So I like the Kings. I like their future. I think they have a solid, foundation built. So actually, I think all 3 of those teams have solid foundations built going forward.
Yeah.
So.
And the Kings have really turned it on in the second half of the year. Because last year, they were like pushing to make it all year. They didn't quite get there, and then they fired Jaeger, and everyone's like, "What the hell are you doing? Like, you had a great season," and they hired Luke Walton. And I think they were a lot of people's like surprise pick. And a lot of people were like really like trying to smash the over. I think their over under was set at like 40, so like about a 500 team. And they started out the gate pretty bad, and people were questioning Luke Walton, like, can he do this? Is he an NBA head coach? Was it just a product of the Warriors when he had success? But they've really improved, and I'm a little bit more in on them than I was.
Great. So let's talk about 2 teams who aren't fighting for an 8 seed, the Thunder and the Pacers, both in their respective conferences around the 4-5 seed. And, that could change, of course, but that's where they're sitting at right now. Unfortunately, the Pacers are just barely getting Oladipo back, and they don't have Sabonis. So their chances aren't looking great as far as getting out of the first round. But the Thunder are a well-constructed team. They have a rejuvenated Chris Paul. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had an excellent season this year, really grew into his own. And they formed a nice backcourt, and they have some other guys who have played key roles. Obviously, they still have Steven Adams, who is much, very solid center. So how are we feeling about the Thunder and the Pacers going into the, this bubble?
I like the Thunder more than the Pacers. I can say that for sure. The Pacers, I think it's going to be tough. No Sabonis, it looks like. I think that he's actually really important, maybe even more important than Oladipo is. And without him going and the chances, I'm not sure we're going to even see out of Oladipo. Is Brogdon's end up going, right? I think so. Yeah. That helps. He's obviously, I like his game a lot. But I just don't know who they play in the first round where I'm like, they're going to win this series. I don't think they can match up with Miami. Certainly not Boston or Toronto. So it's going to be tough for Indiana, but certainly I like the group as a whole. Maybe they add one more piece, and even if you get a full season out of Oladipo, Sabonis, and Brogdon, I think that's a step in the right direction for next year. The Thunder, if they put the Jazz in the first round, I'll take the Thunder. That I would put that pick in, stamp that pick. Like Chris Paul, big time leadership. Really excited to be able to hear all of Chris Paul's banter on the court. And how he's going to be. And, SGA, all in on SGA.
Yeah. I like what you did there.
Yes, thank you. The Clippers should have found a way to keep him in that trade. Like, but maybe it doesn't happen if SGA doesn't go. But like,
Maybe they're better off.
they might be better off, but they're great. And just like Danilo Gallinari. I love Danilo. I've had a long-standing relationship with Danilo Gallinari, really, since the Denver days. I've always been in on Danilo Gallinari. But, man, like, he is awesome. Like, knocks down shots. He'll go get you a bucket. Like, and don't sleep on his defense either. Like, I'm telling you, like, he's a player. They got guys in OKC. We talk about Steven Adams as, like, an interior presence. That's big time. So if you ask me which one's more likely to get out of the first round, I think it's definitely OKC.
Yeah. For the Pacers, for me, Sabonis not being there. I love Sabonis, and he's kind of like the heart and soul of that team. Him and Brogdon all year have been, carrying them. Oladipo is back, but I think, it's been well documented that he didn't want to come back, and there may be a contract thing where he didn't want to give up a couple $1 million. So I don't know what level of the Thunder, but I cannot say enough good things about the Thunder. I love the Thunder, and I think I don't know. Interesting conversation of if the Clippers go back and they don't make that Paul George trade, are they better off? But definitely they're off long term, but that team is still it's an interesting thing. But anyways, this year's Thunder team, love SGA. Chris Paul has been like the best clutch player in clutch minutes this year by far. Almost like all the Thunder are on that list. Built great, like you said, Nilo, Adams. I mean, they got ballers, but we came back to this, it's like that top end where it's like, I don't know that they necessarily have that top end level that they can get to kind of challenge that. And that's why they're in this tier, obviously. But I love watching the Thunder play. I would love it if they beat up on the Jazz in the first round. But I think the West has a little bit of wiggle room right there. So like, Jazz 8.5 game behind, Thunder 9.5, Rockets 9.5. So this kind of bunched up a little there. There could be some movement. I think it's interesting that if the Thunder come out and they can move up, probably not fall back. But either way, they're probably in that 4 or 5 range, see what the Rockets do. But, I'm cheering for their Thunder all the way. I'd love to watch them play, but I don't think this year that, like I said, the top end, they can't reach that high level.
Yeah, I think in our previous bracket, I had the Jazz. I'm absolutely flipping on that. That's probably the one thing that I absolutely am changing on, given, who's there and who's not. I think you guys pretty much touched on everything that needs to be said about the Thunder. Other than, I think we have to give a round of applause to Chris Paul for his role in the NBPA's, involvement in getting this whole bubble situation set up and just navigating through this coronavirus thing. His leadership has been huge. So kudos to Chris Paul, man, because I don't know if anyone else is president, I don't know if we get this, what I mean? This little NBA bubble. And obviously, as you can see, the other sports are not handling this nearly as well as the NBA is. They had a second round of testing, 0 test again, which, I mean,
the bubble was definitely the move.
Definitely. and
MLS is the same way now. MLS zero cases, and we've talked about this. Like when we were talking about, I forget who we had on that day, but we were talking about if the bubble was the right move, because if there is an outbreak, and this might still happen, but if there is an outbreak, it probably will be worse in a bubble.
Right.
Whereas like we're seeing baseball and like the Marlins get infected, and I think there's 17 positive cases now, but they're all on the Marlins, and the Phillies, they played the Phillies, but they don't seem to have any cases right now. So maybe it's like, well, if you don't have a bubble, you're exposed to these outside cities, but you don't get these huge outbreaks, whereas in the bubble, you're not exposed. But if there is an outbreak, it's got potential to be worse. So right now, it's looking really good for the NBA, though.
No doubt.
And also, I think it's kind of a showing to the rest of the world, you know what I mean, how you can we could have contained this had we handled this, better. I don't know, but let's get into some other teams. Technically, the Suns and Spurs are also in the 8 seed race. I don't think we give them any real chance. And then we'll throw the Mavs in here as well because they have Luka Doncic. So, for one, since we're talking about the Suns, anyone help Devin Booker. Like, just get someone in Phoenix front office, get that guy some help because
Please.
that dude can play,
Hmm.
and it's sad he doesn't get nearly as much recognition as he probably should. And he's got his issues maybe defensively, but he's too good to be on a bottom here. And the Suns don't give me any like confidence going forward. I like Ayton, but
Yeah.
I don't love any. Mikal Bridges is solid, and Kelly Oubre is solid.
Well,
But like,
and really though, but the Suns, like, I don't know, like if we're grouping these teams that aren't in the playoffs right now, so that would be the Pelicans, the Blazers, the Kings, Suns, Spurs, and Wizards.
Hmm.
And if you just group them as Pelicans, Blazers, Kings is one group, and then Spurs, Suns, and Wizards is the other group. I think the Suns are closer to the Kings, Pelicans, and Blazers than the Spurs and the Wizards. I really do. I would not be surprised. I mean, I would be surprised, I guess. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if the Suns came out of this as that ninth seed with a chance to play. Their schedule's a little tougher than, like, the Pelicans or the Kings to get there through these 8 games. But, like, I think maybe they're not as good, but they're marginally worse probably. And I don't know if any of those teams have a player as good as Devin Booker, like you said, besides the Blazers, obviously. And Kelly Oubre is a nice piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Suns are nice. I kind of like that young core. I mean, if Ayton can keep growing, I mean, he played well this year when he was in there. He came back from that suspension at the beginning of the year, and I think they do have a chance to build around the Ayton Booker core, and that could be something in the future. But this year, I mean, I don't see it. I mean, they're 2.5 back from like the Kings, Pellies, Blazers, and I think that's a hard climb for them to get there. And like you said, the Pelicans have the easiest schedule of anybody. Like, that's going to be tough to overcome. But yeah, the Spurs, to me, they are just, from a different age. They are playing in 1990 right now with, DeRozan. I know LaMarcus isn't going to be there, but I can't see it from them either. They have some injuries and just, inconsistencies all year. Like DeJounte, I don't think really was that player we thought he was going to be this year.
Yeah.
And it's just tough. I mean, I think those are two teams that are going to have to do some figuring out. But I think the Suns, like you said, I mean, they have a lot of upside, and Booker could snap at any game and get you, stretch here next 8 games, and who knows what could happen. But the Wiz, oh God, oh my, so bad.
Yeah, the Wiz probably don't even deserve to be talked about. But yeah, but man, like, are they worse than the Nets right now? Probably.
No, the Nets are the worst thing to ever be thrown on an NBA court.
Yeah, but at least they have LeVert. The Wizards don't have anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you watching any games that involve the Wizards, Nets, or Magic for that matter?
I watched
Yes.
Magic.
As bad as it'll be.
Okay.
I'm watching everything. I don't care.
If they're on during the day, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're on during the day, I'll watch at work because I won't have much else to do. But other than that, I'm probably not.
And I watch the Spurs too because DeMar DeRozan is my guy.
Of course.
Don't disrespect DeMar DeRozan, okay?
No,
right. Thoughts on the Mavs before we wrap up?
Oh, yeah, Mavs, personally for me, I think Mavs could probably be tier 2. I think that they have a good chance. I like the Mavs a lot. I mean, they got all the shooting in the world. Luka is the LeBron-esque forward that can kind of point forward, put the team on his back, control the pace, do all that kind of stuff. And I think it comes down to KP's level of play. I mean, KP has the talent to be this like all-world top 10 kind of player, but obviously the injuries and all this other stuff and just the inconsistency of trying to find out his role now is kind of like the second guy. But I really like, and plus we're talking about coaches, Rick Carlisle, like, is that guy. I love Rick Carlisle, and I think that the Mavs could, they have a chance, I think, to make some noise. I think Luka is, we'll talk about maybe this on the next pod or something, but he's like a fringe first-team All-NBA, and I think that this guy, I like this Mavs team a lot.
Yeah, probably most improved player this year. I would think he's probably going to win that award. I don't think that they can beat the Clippers in the first round if that's the matchup.
Right.
If they get Denver, then they could probably beat Denver, though.
Yeah.
I think that I might take those matchups on the Mavericks side if that's what it comes down to. And like Luka's special, man. Luka is really, really generational. It seems like, the way he plays is, he's kind of Harden-esque in the way he plays. It's a little bit more enjoyable to watch, I think, for me because he does a better job with his teammates and getting them involved, probably. But I like the Mavs. I certainly like the core, and not this year, of course, but I probably would keep them in tier 3, though.
Yeah, agreed. Certainly like their young core. They're going to have to, do a little building and adding on to that. But Mavs have a bright future ahead of them. Luka obviously is a stud. So excited to see what they bring to the bubble. I think their games will be exciting, to say the least, to watch. So it'll be fun to watch them. But that pretty much wraps it up for tier 3. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the All In podcast. Thank you, Todd, for joining us again for another great NBA discussion. We appreciate you, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. We got some exciting things going on at the network as well. All In with Rain and Bliss just dropped on Tuesday. And tomorrow we'll be getting the Real Deal Radio podcast, and All In Politics. We'll be dropping new episodes. That'll be tomorrow, as in Friday, is when new episodes will release for them. So stay tuned. Rain and Bliss also have new merch out. You can find that on our Twitter page at all_in_pod. You can also find it on their page at All In Rain and Bliss as well. So lots going on. We got some new articles that'll be coming out. A Premier League Team of the Season from our All In FC panel of voters, and then some other articles and stuff like that me and Mike will be working on. So stay tuned, and thank you guys again for being all in with us, and we'll see you guys on Monday.
Thanks, guys.